Okay, so if also, once you get those downloaded, if you can scroll down to the bottom of that very same week, the last assignment that you had to work on for last week was to research and estimate a job that is based on these parameters. And so the parameter of this is, you can bring this up if you want to, although it's, yeah, I mean, we'll just go ahead and bring it up. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so Chicago is your home base. So you are coming out of Chicago. You have a 5-day shoot in Miami Beach, Florida. You are going to bring one assistant from Chicago. You will do a second assistant in Miami. You will have a digital tech coming from Chicago. You'll have a producer also coming from Chicago, a single hair and makeup artist from Chicago, a stylist from Chicago. Wardrobe is provided. There is no prop cost. We are shooting wardrobe, that's why. There will be no prop cost. For your average, you're going to try and do 12 shots a day. How many shots does that mean you're going to do for this job? Exactly. 2 models per day. From both of them will be from Miami. 2 days of shoot will be in a rental studio in Miami. 1 day will be on Miami Beach. 2 days will be at a rental residential location. You do not have to estimate any expenses or costs for the clients or the art director, and the usage on this at the end is one-time print North American only. One of the things that's missing in this is which we'll add, so don't worry if it's not on the one that you guys already submitted, that's okay. But we probably will also be using a styling assistant, and I'm going to say we will pick that person up in Miami. So that'll be the one thing we need to do here. So again, we need to do this whole shooting on paper to begin with. So the first question you have to ask yourself is, when are you going to do it? So it's a 5-day shoot. Does that mean you go down on Sunday, shoot Monday through Friday, and then come back on Saturday? Yeah. So that's what you're going to plan on, right? So that means on Monday morning, you need to be out of the gate, right? Are you going to rent your equipment in Miami, or are you going to rent it here and pick it down? You're going to rent it in Miami, right? When are you going to pick it up? Oh, so the first 2 hours of your day are going to be in the rental house trying to argue with everybody else to pick up gear while your whole crew is sitting there on the clock waiting for you. Is that how you guys are going to do it?
Can you work on a Saturday?
Oh, sure. Anything's fun. You're a freelancer. There is fun. Christmas Day. Can you work on Christmas Day? Yes, I can.
The Ritz House probably isn't open on Sunday, so why not fly in on Monday, pick up the equipment, and start on Tuesday?
Which is indeed a possibility. These are the questions you have to ask yourself about. So what Matthew is suggesting is that we go down on Monday, do all the prep stuff on Monday, and then shoot Tuesday through Saturday, which could also be another possibly good thing, because in all likelihood, we haven't seen where we're going to shoot on the beach yet, and we haven't seen the houses yet that we're going to actually shoot in. So there might be time that we actually need to look at locations or to check that part out to make sure that that whole thing's going to work. Make sense? So I'm actually going to take your suggestion and say that will actually be a good idea. We could fly down Monday morning first thing. We can pick up rental gear sometime on Monday. We can actually do location search on Monday. We can actually sort of like regroup it all, whatever, and then shoot Tuesday through Saturday, fly back on Sunday. Sounds like a plan, right? All right, so we've got an issue. So when are we going to fly now? We said we're going to fly on Monday, right? And when are we coming back? On Sunday, right? Sunday the best day you can fly? Sunday the most expensive day you can fly?
Yeah.
Right? So what about flying back on Saturday night, doing a red out back as a possibility? Okay, well, why don't we maybe think about bidding it? Exactly. Why don't we think about bidding it so we do come back on Sunday, but why don't we keep the possible red eye in our back pocket and losing 1 day of hotel also in our back pocket, so when the client comes back and wants to negotiate our rate lower, we can say, all right, well, I can get us a cheaper airfare and I can knock a hotel off for everybody. Do you think that'll amount to a lot? Of course it will. But is that how you go into it? No, right? Are we good on this part so far? Okay, so we've got a plan. We're looking at traveling on Monday and Sunday. So how many hotel nights does that mean we've got? And what I mean by hotel nights, just figure it out for one person, and then we'll figure it out for the whole crew. But so how many we've got? We've got Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, right? So we've got 6 nights. So again, I put that down. So we've got 6 hotel nights. How many are actually in our crew that are flying down?
6.
So there's a photographer, an assistant, a digital tech, a hair and makeup artist, a stylist. Who else?
Producer.
Our stylist assistant we're picking up down there.
A producer.
Oh, and the producer. So we've got 6 people. So there's 6 out-of-town people. And then our people in Miami itself, we are going to have 2 models there. We will have 1 assistant there for photography and a styling assistant there, right? Is that it? Is that everybody? Okay, so there will be 4 in town. So I'm just sort of like working this out in my own mind as far as that part goes. So this starts to begin to sort of set up the parameters for this, and that part's actually good. So I'm going to actually ask you to go to open up that 30-minute spreadsheet and this guy right here. I'm going to make mine a little bit larger here. Hopefully you can, yeah, you guys can still see this all. So we've actually got a couple of things that we've got to figure out here. The studio part is pretty, as far as that part goes, is pretty well established. However, you've got to ask yourself this: when are you going to shoot the studio stuff? Well, one of the options that we've actually got is we could shoot the studio stuff on Tuesday. That would actually buy us some time, right? So we could pick up gear on Monday, but what a lot of the photo studios down there actually are the same places that actually rent studio gear. So then that could possibly change our whole equation. What if we were coming in on Sunday, Studio House was open, we could get our gear, instead of actually taking our gear anyplace, we simply walk in, the gear's there, and we set it up for whatever we're going to shoot in the studio. Would that be a possibility? Again, you've got to answer, we're not going to answer all those questions tonight. You've got to ask yourself all of that. Does that sort of make sense? But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this, that what we're going to do, because we're going to make Monday an easy day for us, we are actually going to rent all of our gear from a studio place, but that's where we're going to start also, because we're just going to come in on Monday morning, we'll go to the studio, and we actually have a half a day to, we can also start to set up lighting. We can meet the assistant down there. Both the assistants can be actually putting together the lighting while I go out with the client to actually look at locations. Make sense? So in your mind, is this sort of beginning to work where we're sort of at right now, right? So that's beginning to come together a little bit. So that means that Tuesday and Wednesday will be in the studio. All right, so Monday is travel. Monday is travel and setup. Tuesday is shoot studio. Wednesday is shoot studio. Thursday, doesn't really matter. Thursday and Friday can be, Thursday possibly could be the beach, but what about weather permit? Wouldn't you actually be looking at the weather the whole time and trying to figure out what day it's not going to rain? Take this from somebody who spent 9 days in Miami shooting, and it rained every single day, all day long for 9 days. Swear to God, I had a baseball team, a little league baseball team of 9 12-year-olds standing in the rain trying to shoot their picture with film, 30th of a second wide open. Don't move. Don't look wet. Don't look miserable. So at any rate, but yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll set it up like that. So, okay, Thursday will be our beach day. And then Friday will be location, a house, and Saturday will be the same. Okay, sounds like a plan. Okay, so we've got that part has actually worked in our lives. So the way I'm going to actually see this or think about this at least is that essentially what goes on in the house is kind of similar to what happens in the studio, or that's kind of my thinking, right? So in terms of trying to figure out the amount of time that somebody's actually going to spend, I'm trying to work out model time now. But that part's probably going to work out to be about the same in the studio and on the house, right? The beach day might be a little bit different. We'll actually find that out. So I'm going to look at this schedule and sort of see how it goes. If we have to make an adjustment for a different day, then we'll actually make an adjustment for a different day, right? Okay, so I want you guys to do this with me because this is what I'm going to ask you to turn in. This is part of it, so you might as well start now. So remember, I said we actually do this based on photographer time, right? So if I'm lucky enough to have a prep day, or at least part of a prep day, in theory, I could walk into the photo studio and be ready to go. right? I'm not setting up on Monday morning. Oh, wait, what is my day here? My shoot day. I'm not setting up on Tuesday now. I've already set it up the day before, right? So for me, I can actually pretty much start right away. However, how soon can you get somebody through hair and makeup? So again, when we looked at our stuff last time, we were basically thinking, okay, 2 hours to get through hair, makeup, and get dressed for the first shot, right? So there's no way I'm going to get somebody on set before 10 o'clock if I start my day at 8, right? 8 o'clock seems like a reasonable time to start that day, don't you think? Okay, so I'm going to put my first shot right here at 10 o'clock. So I'm just going to put a 1 in there. So then you've got to ask yourself, how often can I shoot? How much time do I need to do this? Well, if I give myself 10 hours, that's what my day is, and I'm going to say I've got 12 shots. It's going to take me a half hour to do every single shot. That's 6 hours of time, right? If I've got a 10-hour day, that leaves me 4 hours to do other things, right? So my 4 hours to do other things. So this is actually going to work out. I don't have to strike that day, right? Because I'm going to go right back in the very next day and do the same shooting again, right? So I'm going to say this is actually going to work out for me just fine. So I'm going to do my second shot here, my third shot here, my fourth shot here. I'm going to do my fifth shot here. I'm going to go ahead and try and get 6 done in the morning. Then I'm going to do lunch. There is going to be, I'm going to put in an hour for lunch because I'm going to need hair and makeup time to recover from that. So whether you do it or not for the entire hour, LUNCH. Start off with my shot 7 here, 8 here, 9 here, 10 here, 11 here, and 12 here. So at 5 o'clock, I can actually be done with this part. So again, in my model number 1, she will be hair here, makeup here, dress here. Oh, why do I have this extra half an hour in here? Well, we already know this from before. To get your Model 2 ready, you actually need to put her in here as well. So while this Model 1 is getting dressed, Model 2 can actually go through hair, makeup, dress, and ready to go. So whether we actually start or not. So this girl will do shot number 1, and 3, and 5, and 7, and 9, and 11. And this girl will do shot 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Actually, here, everybody gets to do lunch at this point. But this girl actually needs to go back into makeup at this stage of the game right now. She needs to be ready to actually be ready to do her 7th shot. And so this is kind of how my day looks. Does this make sense to you guys? So my model number 1, she needs to start at 8 o'clock. Her stop time now is at 4:30. How much time is that? 8.5 hours. My next model over here, she actually starts at 9 o'clock. She ends up going to 5, and that's an 8-hour day. This is exactly the way things laid out last week, kind of by design. My hair and makeup artist, this girl right here, she's actually going to start here, and she goes all the way down to here. And I'm sorry, to here. So her day starts at 8 o'clock. And it goes to 5 o'clock. How long is that? 9-hour day. Is that flat rate? Models make. Do they work an 8-hour day or a 9-hour day or a 10-hour day? Hair and makeup. Models work 8 hours a day. Photographers don't work. You're not doing your stuff based on time. We spent 2 days now talking about you do not bid your work based on time. Assistants, digital techs, stylist assistants, stylists, hair and makeup, all of those are 10-hour days. That stuff can all be negotiated, but that's pretty much the standard that exists right now. So I don't need to worry about overtime for these people right here, not this person yet. I do have an overtime issue that's going to go right down here, so I do need to worry about that guy right now. So this is how I would actually construct my stuff. So I'm going to put down, this would actually be the way that I would construct this. This is actually how it will be for both of the days in the studio. This will how it be. It'll also be the same thing for both of the days at the house. But what about the beach? Are you going to stay at a hotel that's right on Miami Beach and simply walk out of your hotel room and go to the back and sit there and shoot pictures at the beach? Or are you going to get in the car and drive 2 hours to go to some secluded, I don't know, crazy beach? Well, you need to know that beforehand, because if you're going right out of your hotel, it won't matter. You can treat it exactly the same time schedule that we've got it here. However, if you're going to go someplace else, if you're going to go an hour, you've got to budget in travel time. So let's say we are going to go an hour away. Let's just make that sort of like the plan in all of this, right? So we need to do a second version of this guy right now. And the second version of this guy is actually going to involve, and we can just put it down here. I'm just going to add travel time down here. And travel time, if it's an hour away, well, it's an hour out there and it's an hour back, right? So if that's 2 hours in my book, and that's going to be for this girl, and it's also going to be for this girl, right? It's also going to be for my hair and makeup people as well right here. Sorry, guys, I've got this down too low. Okay, so it's also going to be 2 more hours for the hair and makeup person. And now all of a sudden, my total time for the beach day, so we'll just call this beach day, is going to be 10.5 for this girl, 10 for this girl, and 11 for the hair and makeup, which is also going to be stylist, stylist assistant, as well as the other assistants as well, everybody. So you're sort of getting some idea of what time is involved in all of this right now. Is that making sense to everybody? Are we good on this? Okay, so this gives us some structure in terms of how the shoot's actually going to go. So with this in mind, and we'll come back and look at this in just a second, we've got one other thing that we need to figure out before we actually start to shoot, and that's going to be our equipment rental. Again, I'm going to make this guy a little bit bigger. In this equipment rental sheet that I've actually given you, there's a couple of things that you should know about this, and it's how equipment rental actually works. So this is kind of a weird concept, but this is how it works, and it works this way. And every single city works this way. In Miami, in New York, in Los Angeles, in Chicago. I can't promise you it works this way in Paris or Tokyo, but I know everywhere in the United States. And this is how it works. In equipment rental, you pay for the first 3 days and you get a week. So what you do is, if you're only renting gear for 1 day, you pay for it 1 day. If you're renting gear for 2 days, you pay for both of those days. If you're working for 3 days, you pay all 3 of those days. If you're working for 4 days, you only pay for 3. 5 days, you only pay for 3. 6 days, you only pay for 3. 7 days, you only pay for 3. On the 8th day, it starts over again. So for 8 days, you pay for 4 days. Does that make sense? And then it goes the same thing. 9 days, you pay for 5. 10 days, it's 6. And then 11th day, it's still 6. 12th day, it's still 6. 13th, still 6. 14th, still 6. On the 15th day, you go into your next round of 3s. Does that make sense? So in terms of thinking about that, then we can actually, this is when you enter the number of days, which is the very top of this. This is, again, another spreadsheet that will do all the calculating for you. So at the top here, we've actually got 2 days, but we need to count out how many days really is our job going to be. We're picking up gear on Monday. We are going to have it all day Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, right? And we will try to get it back Saturday night. That's going to be the plan. So I've got 6 days. So that's how many days of rental? 3, right? So you put a 3 in here at the very top. It will calculate all of these other things for you. How much are you going to mark up your gear if you can? Well, I put in 17%. That's actually the standard markup that a lot of people will use, but that doesn't mean that has to be your markup. You could put in 10%, or you could put in, you don't need to figure out nothing, because I've actually got, you'll have two totals here. This total right here will be with no markup. This total right here is with the markup. So you can actually change that figure to whatever you want. So if you're really in demand, you could actually mark it up 25%. So you get to put that figure in. I'm going to say, and you would just simply change this. And to change this again, you would just put in 25. So you could actually put in 25. And that'll actually change all the calculations in here. But I'm going to leave it at 17. And so then we're going to actually ask ourselves, what are you really going to use in the studio? Well, what do you guys typically work with in a photo studio? Couple of power packs, typically my setup, always my setup, is I always do 4 packs, 8 heads. That's how I start, unless I know it's going to be a bigger job, right? But you guys need to decide what's the nature of the job. But that's what I'm going to do, right? So that will get me through any situation that I feel like. I'm going to get on location. I've got to light rooms while I'm on location. How many packs does it take to light up 2 rooms, 3 rooms? You're seeing all the way through the kitchen. Everybody's got their blown out walls, the great rooms and all that kind of shit. How much lighting does it take you to actually be able to light that stuff? So for me, that's what I'm going to do. This Pro Photo, it's typically, a lot of places do the same thing, whatever. They actually do kits. So this is a single pack with 2 heads. So if I put 4 in here, that's going to give me 4 packs and 8 heads. And then I simply hit the return key and come down. I'm only going to stay in this part over here. And you can see, it does all the calculating for me. I actually have this, the rate for a typical Pro Photo pack and a 2-ring kit is $110 a day. That would mean for the week, it's $1,320. If you add the 17% markup, it's $1,544. Make sense? Okay, and I'd just go down the list. Do you need battery packs? Exactly, you do need battery packs while you're shooting on the beach. So what do you need on the beach with a battery pack? I'm not going to probably need my 4 packs and 8 heads on the beach. So 2 packs, because would you ever go out on the beach with only 1 pack? Would you ever go out with no backup? No, so a minimum of 2 packs, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put in 2 for this. However, I've got a problem with this because this is actually going to be for the week. I only need it for 1 day. So then the question becomes, do you leave this like this, or do you work it out? Do you figure out a way that you are actually only going to charge them for that 1 day? Why?
Because you can change it if it's too much.
Exactly. Just build something in that I can take out. Does this make sense?
Is this just for the beach day that we're talking about?
Yep.
But what about when you're still gonna rent equipment? We're talking about both. He's saying that also there's people who like the battery packs. Can you so
Okay, all right, here. Let's go over this again. Let's go over this again. Let's go over this again. I only need the batteries for the day at the beach.
we're talking specifically talking about that piece of equipment, not
Yes, right here. That's what this is. Right here. This 7B right here is a battery. That's what it says. It's a 1200 battery pack kit. As a matter of fact, this is one with a ring flash, so I'm going to change that back to 0. I'm actually going to use the one underneath. It actually gives me 2 heads as well. So I'm going to say 0 to this and down to 2 to this. And the reason, so what came up in this whole discussion is that right now, because what I'm doing here is you can see that this is $170 per day to actually rent this. But in my total right now, I've got $1,000 because I'm actually marking in this that I'm going to rent it for 3 days. This is a 3-day rental. Does that make sense? So, and the reason I said, do you adjust for that now, or do you leave this in so that it then gives you something to take out? Because look at the difference. Right here, I've got, basically, it's going to cost me basically $200 for the day. I'm telling them right now it's going to be $1,000. That gives me an $800 cushion that I can take out if I need to. They come back to me and they say, Verser, this is killing us here. We've got to get this number down. And I say to them, okay. And I know this is the first place that I can actually go to and actually put in the real figure that it's going to be, what it's really going to cost me, right? And it doesn't take anything for me to do it. Does this make sense? Okay. Again, this is all the secrets, guys. All right, so I'm going to keep going down. Another interesting thing about this, though, is do I need the extra 2 heads here? No, because I've already got 8 heads right here, and the heads on the in-studio battery packs are the exact same heads as the battery packings. So it's going to be even cheaper, right? But again, it's another built-in. And if they don't balk at it, maybe I just go ahead and push the whole thing through and I pocket the money. I only rent them for the day. I don't. And I charge them for all 3 days. Does that make sense? You know, you've got to start making money on things other than just your fee, and this would be a great place to do it. So we're going to keep going down this list. So I don't need a separate power packs. I don't need separate heads. I don't need a bi-tube. I don't need a ring light. I do need spot grids. I always work with spot grids. This is my personal thing. I would usually put in 3 for that. Do I need a beauty dish? Absolutely. I only need 1 of those. I'm just going down. Do I need a 20-degree reflector for that? Absolutely, I do. Do I need an AC adapter? What this would do is actually let you plug a battery pack into the wall. I don't need that. I do need Profoto head extension cords. I would do at least 2. I also need an Octabank. I would do 1 of those. In terms of soft boxes, chamirs, medium strips, that kind of stuff, typically the kits up here, the 2-head kits, will come with 2 stands, 2 umbrellas, 2 heads, 2 packs. 1 pack. That's basically what these are. So do I need chamirs and softbox, that kind of strip? Typically, I'll put in stuff for a couple of strips, so I'm going to go ahead and put in 2 right there. I don't need any umbrellas. I don't need different reflectors. Pocket wizards, how many do I need? How many do you need to run 4 packs? And what are you going to shoot it with? You want to know why I use these lists over and over and over and how specific this shit's got to be? Oh yeah, I budgeted for 4 radio slaves and I really needed 5. Sorry. And let's see. At $15 a day. Okay, maybe it won't kill you, but anyway, so I'm going to put in 5. C-stand, how many? I've got 8 heads, so I would do at least 8. I also would probably have a couple of heads around at least to use gobos and scrims, that kind of stuff. Who knows, right? So 10, 12. What is it going to be? 11. Okay, yes. It's going to be, I know, because I love odd numbers. And it's like, well, no, this is, but okay, again, I'm constantly angling for the excuse. Who is going to question 11? Now, somebody might say 12 is ridiculous. You don't need that. 20 is ridiculous, right? But if you say 23, doesn't that sound so specific that it's going to be like, nobody's going to question that, but fuck, they need 23. That seems like a lot to me, but who would come up with that 20, 40? That's a number that you can say that's ridiculous. But so 11, I'm going with 11. I'm going with 11. It was a perfect number. A super boom on a roller stand. We always use boom, so I'm actually going to put 1 in for this guy as far as that part goes. Speedotron light stands are simply the collapsible little black ones, whatever. You don't need those because they're all going to come in your kit. Floor stands, in the most part anymore, what we do with floor stands is we would just throw sandbags down and lay a head on that. So I'm not going to do floor stand. A Real Effects wind machine, I would do 1. Would I do only 1? Why would I need more than 1 Real Effects wind machine?
Both sides.
Say what?
Both sides.
What? Oh, both sides. No. No.
2 models.
2 models. And that actually might be a good reason. I would actually say that's a possibility, yes. But let's say it's 95 degrees and you're shooting. Wouldn't you love to have a wind machine on you as the photographer? No, my wife works with a guy from New York here, and they always shoot at the same time in July. And it's July in the street, and it's hotter than shit, and he has on a wind machine and a generator dedicated to him. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at 1, though. Not going to be too greedy here. I definitely would put in for a tripod as far as that goes. These are gobos or flags, or these would actually be called cutters, anything like that. These are the solids. They also are called solids. I'm going to put in 4 of those. In terms of the open-ended nets, we would probably put in 2 for that, only because, again, they help control exposure as far as that part goes. Apple boxes, how many?
How many people are there? Like 6?
I have a total crew of 10. But you're going to have to carry all this shit too, right? This stuff isn't going to carry itself. Oh, that's a possibility.
You want your chair, you bring it yourself.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. But again, you're exactly, people use these. These are the chairs that people use on location, right? I'm not going to necessarily need that in the studio, but nonetheless. So we're saying 10. Is that what you guys are going to put in?
Well, you need one.
Okay. No, that's fine. Let's go ahead and put in 10. I'm not going to do any halves here. A-clamps. Who thinks about charging for A-clamps? Me. I got my bill. I actually had surgery on my hand, which is so bizarre. I mean, the medical profession, talk about a racket, right? So $17,000 to have this operated on. But wait, but the insurance company has a deal with the hospital, so they just lock $12,000 off. So it's really $5,000, which is still exorbitant. Right, but my insurance ultimately it ends up costing me $500. That's what it ends up costing me, right? But I get the itemized bill, and I swear to God, there was an item on that itemized bill for 13 cents. I don't remember what it was, but there was a 0.13 on my $5,000 bill that started out as the $17,000 bill. So I charge for A-clamps. How many A-clamps are we going to do? How many? No, you got to think this out, really, seriously about this. I'm going to put in 10 for those two, right? Super clamps with studs. Does everybody know what those are? All right, I'm going to put in 6 for that, just so I have this stuff around. How many knuckles? Well, in the light stand situation, they actually come with arms, which implies that they also come with knuckles, right? So I'm not really feeling like I'm going to need any of those because most of the heads are going to be on stands. I'm going to pull the arms off and have extra knuckles anyway. So I'm not going to put anything for that. How many extension cords do you need? Where did we get the extension cords already? Nope. So I've got 4 packs. I'm going to put in 4 extension cords. Yeah. Oh, head extension cords, 2 different things. A head extension cord is a way that you can get a head further from a pack. What? Oh, good call. Oh, good call. 6. Moving blankets. What the heck am I doing with moving blankets? It's exactly what you're doing. You go into some $1 million home with all your gear and you start dragging it across the floor along with your muddy feet. They will go ballistic. So you get moving blankets to basically cover everything. So in our case, I'm going to put in 6 of those as well. Beach carts. Again, I only really need it for the beach day. Or is that true? Do I need it any other time? How do I move my gear from the van that I'm now hopelessly overloading with Apple boxes up to the house on location day, right? So everybody uses beach carts to do both. So don't think of it. You guys know what I'm talking about, beach carts, right? Yeah. Those things they have at the studio, right? Everybody uses them. When MacArthur's drag all their shit over to the Hilton, they do it in beach carts, right? So again, that's what you're going to need it here for. So beach carts, I'm going to put in 2. Why on earth would you have a mag liner? Does anybody know what a mag liner is? Do you know those carts that you actually, you see like all the beer guys using them? It's the, sort of, it like stands upright. It's sort of like curved like this, and it's got 2 wheels and then a little sort of like toe thing, and they stick it under beer cases and they pull it back and they take it in. That's a mag liner, right? But one of the things about good mag liners is that they also completely, the part where you're pulling back like this, will actually drop completely flat on the ground. There's a second set of wheels. So now you've got all 4 wheels. And then there's a thing that lifts up that gives you a tray. And so it basically becomes like this cart that you can wheel around that's a tray. And most people, that's what they shoot off of. That's where they put their computer, and that's what a digital tech will actually work off of, right? So, yeah, I can. So this is what it ends up, this is what it looks like right here. That's what you end up doing with it. And so you can put a computer up here, and you can put gear down here. And anyway, so that's what it is. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to put in 1 for my mag liner. If you've got anything else that we haven't figured out yet, now I haven't gotten into digital stuff yet, but no, just so you guys know, because again, my gift to you, I've not only given you my calculator, then the macro that actually works on it, but I'm giving you this thing as well. And these prices are legitimate. These prices are all taken from Trex in New York. So these are actually all legitimate as far as this part goes. So they're good things to use. You may want to update this. The last time I updated these prices was probably a couple of years ago. So, but it'll be close. It'll be really close. As far as that, anyway, if there's any unnamed expenses, you would put them in here, and then you get to see your total. So again, would you have said for rental gear you need $5 grand in gear? Well, it's right here. You don't need $5 grand. You need $5,444 worth of gear. There is a charge for 7% tax in here, even if you are tax exempt. Now, this is something you guys need to know because you all know how to play the sales tax game here in Chicago now, right? If you get your sales tax certificate, you do not pay sales tax on anything you buy, but you pay on what you rent. This is actually considered an entertainment tax. This isn't in Chicago. It's still around 6%. It's not 10%, 10.25% like sales tax is. So this part actually matters. I also do not have any charge in here yet for delivery. If we were going to put in delivery charge on this, let's say, for instance, you were going to rent this stuff at a rental house and have them deliver that to the photo studio so you didn't have to actually do that work. In this case, you would actually put in a delivery charge. You would probably put in 2, one for them to deliver the gear there, the next one for them to pick it up. But I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. I'm not going to worry about that part. Or I'm just going to rent it from the same place that is where the studio is. Make sense?
That still charges delivery.
Oh, that's a good call. 2 deliveries. Good call. See, no, I love that's exactly how you should be thinking. We're going to put in 2 for that, for pickup and delivery. So you can see then this is how this works. So the total for this year alone comes down to $5,594. That's no markup at all. Your 17% markup, this is what it is, this $6,545. Say what? No shit. This is how you make money and stay in business. I'm telling you this right now, guys. This is the game. And again, look how specific these numbers are. Somebody wants to know your costs. Well, you can give a complete breakdown. Well, here, this is what I'm charging. This is what it's costing me. And they look at these numbers, $84 for something, $247. I mean, there's no 300 here, 400 there. You're not doing that kind of work. That's what you need to stop thinking about in this game. Because I'm going to say right now, there's not a single person in this room who did that bid and turned it into me tonight that has a $5,000, almost $6,000 charge in for rental gear. Not one of you. But what am I? Even if I pull the batteries out of this, it's still going to be a $4,500 charge. This is the liability that you get into when somebody says, can't you give me a ballpark figure? They call you up on the phone, I want you to do the job, can't you just give me a ballpark figure? Yeah, $2,000 for rental gear. No, it really was $5,000. Are we good on this? Yeah. We haven't even finished on the rental gear yet. We need cameras. So for cameras, I'm going to put in 2 bodies. I typically, for me, I always work with one 24-70 and one 70-200. The only time I would get into a 300 or 400 millimeter lens is if I wanted to do really long stuff. It would probably be my beach day. Would be the only day that I would actually do that. So again, if you wanted to then work this out, let's say you do want to rent one of these lenses for only one day, and you're getting nervous about charging your client for all 3 days on this guy, right? You could, instead of putting in a 1 here, you could put in a 0.3, because then the 0.3 will be multiplied times your 3 days, and it'll end up essentially being, well, here, you'll see. If it put in 0.3, actually probably 0.33 is what I think is going to end up happening. You end up with, yeah, it was $85 a day, and you've got 1 day is at $84. That seems ridiculous to me, so I'm going to simply, I'm not going to use a 300, but I am going to put in for a 400. And again, we'll just leave it at that same trick. I do this all the time. I shoot with really long lenses. If you want to blow backgrounds out, so you got people running on the beach, that kind of stuff. Long lenses are where that actually comes into play. Can work really well. So I'll leave that in. Again, it's another thing that I can take out later if I want to. All this phase stuff right here, this is all medium format. Are you doing the job medium format? Well, we didn't decide that yet. So are you shooting this medium format or 35 millimeter? Alex. And they're going to have a real good idea to say about that, right? So again, this is another question that needs to be answered beforehand, right? Because some people want to shoot, some people it's all medium format. My preference actually is to shoot medium format, but most of the clients won't pop for it. So anyway, I'll go ahead and leave it at 35 millimeter. So you can blow through all of this. You don't need any of this stuff. I'm not going to use, oh, am I going to use a CF or card reader? Now, all the people who are experienced in working with me in any of my classes know that I shoot tethered all the time, right? Is there ever a case where I would not shoot tethered? There actually is. If you've got to climb down, you know, if you've got to rappel down the cliff to get to the beach, you'll know this actually happens. There's a place in LA called Manhattan Beach that's where 1,000 videos you've seen have been shot. It's a beautiful place, but it is a trek down there. And hauling all the computer stuff down there, some people will do it, some people won't. Depends on how many assistants you've got. But occasionally I will shoot the card. But the reason that's the best thing to have is that, let's say you're doing tracking shots. You guys know what tracking shots are? Tracking shot is when, here, Zach, stand up. Come this way. Actually, let's start down there. Sorry, we'll do it this way. So I want pictures, Zach's my new model. I want pictures of Zach and I want pictures of him natural. So I don't want this. I want him actually moving, right? So I take my camera like this and I say, Zach, start walking, just follow me. Click, 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 click. That's a tracking shot. That gets hard and tricky to do to actually walk backwards. So what a lot of people will do is actually they'll climb inside a beach cart and have an assistant drag them down the beach. And you do your tracking shots that way. Or you get a skateboard and you sit on the skateboard and somebody pushes you along. You have an assistant drag you along the city, you know, the street as you're shooting tracking pictures, that kind of stuff. Those types of things. Or you get in the back of a trunk. One of the Daytona Beach, if you actually get to shoot there, you can bring cars on the beach and you can actually drive them on the beach. So if you do that, you climb in the trunk of the car. You take a C-stand and you jam the pole of the C-stand up to hold the trunk lid open of the car. You climb in the back of it with your camera and they just start to drive down the beach. And you have people running after you, surfboards after you, you have people on bicycles following you. You got somebody running along the side of the car, you shoot them tracking style like you do. I mean, all of that kind of stuff. But shooting inside the car is relatively easy. You can do that tethered, but actually if you're in the cart on a dolly, in a skateboard, a wheelchair, is another really great tracking device. No, it's true, because they just pull you on a wheelchair and the wheels are big enough, and anyway, it works out really well. It's usually easier to shoot to a card, but the final thing about shooting to card is that what happens when your computer will not tether? Do you stop shooting? No, you need a backup, and cards are your backup. So we would have a CF card reader. I'm going to put in 2 of those. And then in terms of the, I'm sorry, that was the cards themselves. For the cards, I'm going to probably put in 6. For the card reader, I would put in 2. Again, I need something redundant. I'm not going to use a color temperature meter, but I actually am going to use a flash meter. In terms of laptops, I would have 2. In terms of the viewing hood and that kind of stuff, this is, again, I'm going to be on location for the whole time here, so I'm going to put in 1 of those, and typically you would use an external monitor if you want a client to actually be able to see something. On location, typically what we will do is we will set up a complete computer system inside a motorhome, and then we will go outside and shoot and then bring it back in and show it to them, and they actually want to see it up on a nice big monitor, something that you can actually calibrate. So that sort of takes care of my digital stuff. So now I got $4 grand in digital gear. How many people figured this one out? Yes. Oh yeah, I would rent everything. Why on earth would you bring your own, especially if you can make money on renting one? All the above. So you guys remember class 1? And it was all about, oh yeah, I want to make money, I want to do all of this. So here it is, guys. We have been working up to this moment right here tonight. Now you might be looking at this and going, I fucking don't believe this. This is bullshit. Nobody does this. I'm telling you this right now. I've done this 1,000 times. It happens all the time. Okay, we're almost done with this. Then the location work itself, the day that we're actually on the beach, we need actually probably at the very least some sort of scrim, some sort of diffusion, something like this. I'm not going to go with the 12 by 12 set. We've only got 2 models. So we're not going to need something that big. But I am going to go with a 6 by 6 in terms of a frame with hangers and a medium high roller to do it. So basically what we're talking about is a huge white silk that you can put over people. Why am I going to want that? It kills direct overhead light. So that's basically what you're doing. If you need to shoot pictures at noon in the summer in Miami, the sun is so high for the majority of the shooting time that you're actually going to be shooting. You would actually use this silk to kill that, and then probably reflectors to actually put in more directional side light. Alex. Again, this goes back to that whole thing. We keep leaving 3 in here. So if you wanted it only for one day, you would put in, instead of this 1, you would put in your 0.33. Not 1.33, but 0.33. And again, then you'll see it'll actually calculate. It's pretty much the same as far as that part goes. So yeah, okay, this is a good one, Alex. This is a good one. I like this. So I really want them to suck up and not notice that I put the battery packs in for the whole week. So if I do the location stuff for only one day, maybe they will skip over the fact that I actually did the battery stuff for all week. Make sense?
So they actually have like someone going through and double checking.
They might, but then that person obviously would have to know what they're doing photographically speaking, and who knows, right?
Yeah. So
anyway, let's do this. So we will, Alex, I think this is a good idea. We will keep it at strictly this. We will keep it for just one day. So I don't need a quarter inch silk on top or a solid. I don't, the 6-foot umbrellas. Okay, so you're shooting on Miami Beach and the sun's out and it's blasting. Do you just stand out there? Does your art director just stand out there in the sun for I don't know how long? So these 6-foot umbrellas are actually, you set them up. They're stands that are actually set up. It's a way to get at, to basically have shade on the beach, right? But it's not for making pictures, it's for the crew, right? So I'm gonna put in, we'll get 3 of them, so we'll only call it, we'll just put in 1 for the, 1 for this, because that'll actually buy us 3 of them. Rent us 3 of them, right? Because we're doing 3-day rental on this, right? Okay, so we're gonna continue on down here. I would do a sun bounce for this. Actually, probably, I'll do a single sun bounce for this. So again, our 0.33. A sun swatter is actually the same thing as an overhead umbrella. The reflector board, I'm not gonna bother with that. I am actually going to add another roller stand. Again, it's the same thing as those big heavy duty roller stands that are in the studio. Sandbags. Now for the sandbags, I need those for the entire shooting. Those are going to be for the entire time. So how many sandbags do you need for a photo shoot like this?
I was about to say 13.
I'm going to go with a weird number, right? I'm going to up that to 15. Again, that would just be from experience. How many generators? Can you use a generator on the beach? No, you cannot. Well, we're going to look at that in just a second. Who here did their actual research and found what it takes to get permitted to shoot on the beach in Miami? Anybody do that work? Good, good. Yeah, some of us nod.
Every time I looked it up, it just kept going to like hotels.
Okay, no, all right, we'll look at it. We'll look at it. That's all a part of today. So anyway, I'm going to leave the generator out. The heater for propane. Why on earth would I use that? Propane heaters. When it's cold, I actually had a client shooting jeans on the street in Chicago in January when it was 20 degrees. And so we rented all those like torpedo-shaped propane heaters that, you know, like you see on the sides of football fields and that kind of stuff. But you also, the other ones that you rent are sort of, they're taller than they're more like, they're taller and rounder. They don't blow heat. And I actually had my client stood so close, she set her jeans on fire and did not know it. And her backside of her jeans up in flames, and we put her out. It was hysterical. Anyway, yeah. But that's what you get for shooting in fucking January. Somebody's out there in like little short sleeves and stuff. It was ridiculous, but it happens all the time. Fog machine, do I need a fog machine? Are we doing moody pictures on the beach? I'm gonna say no, we'll forget that one. What a dolly is a dolly is actually a cart that's designed to hold a camera and a camera operator. And it's got, well here, I'll show you a picture of one really quick. You guys should know about all of this stuff because you should think about using all of this stuff. Doorway dolly. This is the kind that I use right here. So basically what it is, it's two-handled. You can do the handles come out so you can drive either side of it. But typically, so I sit here with a camera on a tripod on top of it, and again, it's done for tracking shots. So you run along the streets with it. Somebody's actually pulling you, and your talent is you're either chasing them or they're chasing you to get tracking shots. Yeah, no, it works great. And you can do it forever. I can't tell you. Every single street in Tribeca, I've run these things up and down them to death. Okay. So that's what a doorway dolly is. Do you need a ladder for this? No, we're not going to get a dolly. I know, right? I'm not going to get a ladder either, but a lot of times, why would I ever use a ladder? No, but that's absolutely true. There's a lot of clients who actually are tired of just looking at somebody taken from, 5.5 feet tall, straight on shots. They want stuff that's down really low, shooting up, hero pose. They want stuff up high, shooting down, really dramatic pose, whatever. Do you need a ladder to do that? Do you need a ladder to actually rig something up? Do you need to get a light somewhere on whatever, blah, blah, blah. You just, you never know as far as this part goes. I'm going to leave the ladder out of this equation, though. And then finally, an easy pop-up. This is the same thing as for clients. And people use these things all the time. It's a 10 by 10 foot, and it's not really a tent. You guys have seen this all the time. It's like 4 stands with a cover on the top of it that's 10 feet square that a bunch of people can get under it and get out of the sun. So again, so I've gone through this whole part right here. So thank God I've only got $290 in location gear. Expendables. So again, this is actually I'm sorry? A perfect question on that, because actually I'm going to have an RV for the entire time while we're on location. I'm actually even going to do it, not for the days of the studio, but I will do it for the days at the house location. Why on earth would I rent an RV if I've got a house location? 9 out of 10 locations that you'll want to shoot in, they will not let the crew in the house. They will only let you in areas where you can do pictures. They will not let you in there to set up and do hair and makeup. So that's all done in an RV that sits outside, and then you parade people in. Yes. Then just check the numbers that you put in. So do you have the same numbers that I do?
Okay.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. I was worried there. I have a place for hard drive for the client. This is going to be for digital file delivery on our estimate form, so I'm not going to put it in here. In terms of foam core, would you ever use foam core on a shoot like this? Foam core. You know those big sheets of in the studio, those things that are black on one side, white on the other side? Would you ever use those? Would you ever need those on a shoot like this? I use them all the time. I use them in the studio all the time. They become light sources, scrims for me, all that kind of stuff. Why on earth did you ever use one on location? Changing? That's actually a great call. Changing would be one option. How many people in this room right here have ever shot a building? The wedding people will know this easily. Have ever shot a building that's got like French doors or windows or all that kind of stuff? And what happens to those French doors and windows? Don't they just go black? They're just like black holes in your life, right? Most retail clients who are shooting fashion don't want a whole lot of black holes in the images that you're taking because they're running type on that, they're doing all of that kind of stuff on it, right? So what everybody does who does shooting on location is you take foam core and you press it up against the back of all the glass in a house, and then you have white windows. See, not only are you learning business, but you're actually learning how to fucking light and shoot as well. I'm giving it to y'all, right? But at any rate, yes, I would put in for this most definitely. And these are actually set up. These would be single sheets of this. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 8. It would be 4 black and white, and yeah, I would just put in 8 sheets for this. Gaffer's tape. Of course, you need at least a black and a white. Light balancing gels, I'm not going to worry about that part right now. So our studio expendables have actually now come down to this. The van rental we will put in later. But so this is what my grand totals are right here. So in my grand totals right here, this would be the value that I would actually put in. I've got two places in my on our spreadsheet. I'm not going to do the 17% markup. I'm going to be a really nice guy, and I'm just going to give it to them at cost. But this is actually what it would be. So in that one line for special equipment rental, you'll have $5,884. For the digital equipment rental, you'll have $4,189. For the expendables, $477, for a grand total of $10,550. How many, again, did anybody think that was anywhere close to this? Did anybody think I'm exaggerating any of this? Is any of you going to look at me and say, well, that's bullshit, you can't do that? You would never do that. Are we good on this?
I have a question.
Yes.
On my thing where it says like the check total and the grand total,
Yeah.
it's just like pound sign.
Oh, if you get pound signs, it's only because your column width is too narrow. It'll look like this. So you get those signs like that. If you simply click on the column and drag it wider, you will get all the values that you need. They're in there. If you double click just on the top. Yeah. Oh, double click on this. Or not. Oh, well, good. Anyway, that's what it is. So, guys, wait a second. This is an important one for you. This is yet another checklist that I am giving you. And we use this always because this is the thing that we're going to actually use to order our gear and to develop our packing list, the things that we're going to need that we're actually either going to have to bring from Chicago or that we're actually going to get them to have in the studio. So again, do you have your layouts? What about your certificates of insurance and your permits? Did you bring your checkbook? Are you going to have to write a check? Are you going to have to write corporate checks somewhere in Miami? Well, who's paying for the location? How's that getting worked out? All that kind of stuff. So this is the checklist. Do you have your GPS? Do you have all of this stuff that you've actually got worked out? Do you have your extra batteries? Do you have your aspirin and your Benadryl? Are you using walkie-talkies or are you using cell phones? What's the difference? Why on earth would I bother with a walkie-talkie and not use a cell phone? Reception becomes an issue, and then also, let's say that you've got a radio, you've got one for you, you've got one for your digital tech, one for your assistant, one for the stylist and the assistant, and one for the art director, and one for the motorhome driver. So that's all of a sudden 6, and all 6 can talk at the same time. They can all hear everybody at the same time. You can put a walkie-talkie up in the RV and everybody can hear it, that kind of stuff. So at any rate, there's reasons to have these other things. Did you bring your fucking music? It is. It's huge. Right? So this thing, again, yet another gift to you guys. Did you bring your rain gear? Because if you're going to Miami, you damn well better think about bringing it. So at any rate, I've gotten my figures that I actually need to work with right now. So now I can actually start trying to do the bid. We're actually going to start in the bid right now, guys. We'll take a break in about a half an hour. Then we'll finish the bid up on the end of it. And there you go. Okay. Are there questions about this whole process so far? We good? Okay, so the next thing to do is go ahead and open up your invoice calculator where we're going to actually start with this. So in figuring out, my situation right here, what we've actually got going here, you can use this with your figures. I'm going to use this with my figures. We will say that the client for this, let's actually do this. The client's going to be Lord & Taylor. It's not going to be Bonton. It's going to be Lord & Taylor. That's who we're actually going to do it for. So you've actually got a New York person that you're going to do this for. What would be, again, we're not going to quote day rates, but what would you charge them per day to actually shoot retail catalog? One-time use in the U.S. You guys, right here, you guys, right now, give me a number. Creative fee. What I want to know is your per day creative fee. Again, we're not going to quote it that way, but I just want to know what your creative fee would actually be to do this. Well, I'm telling you mine right now is $3,500 a day, and that's real. So what's yours? What?
$3,500. $34.99.
I like that. No, but then actually, because again, if you've read all those things I've asked you to read about this, the truth of the matter is, if Lord & Taylor approached me to bid on this job and approached you as well, in all likelihood, they should be expecting your rate to be maybe not exactly the same as mine. What do I bring to it that you don't? I bring experience to it. What do you bring to it that I don't? Youth. You know, what are those things actually worth? Are they tangible? Are they worth something? And if they are, can you defend that? Can you go in and say, well, yes, but I'm bringing a 22-year-old's perspective to this, so that's a value. Whereas I'm going to say I can bring 35 years of experience to this. That is a value, right? So I would say realistically, if you were to come to me and I had this information and I knew that there was somebody like me who was bidding and coming in at 35 a day, what should you guys be coming in today? My guess, I'll guess here, would be somewhere between 25 and 3. That's what I would put you in at. Does that seem unreasonable? Does that seem reasonable? Well, so what's it going to be?
3.
Okay. So that's what you need to put in on yours. So I'm going to start mine in. Again, this is creative fee, and this is going to be per day, although you're never going to quote this as a day rate. But I'm going to put in, again, I've got 5 days of shooting. So I'm putting in 5 here. Hit the tab key to come across, and in your case, you would type in 3,000 instead of 3,500. And then simply hit the tab key again, and you'll come back to the prep fee as far as this part goes. Now, in our case, we are going to have a travel day. It's going to be the same thing as a prep day. And again, if you look, you will see that this spreadsheet actually does the math for you. It takes whatever your creative fee was, and it cuts it in half. And that's basically what most people are willing to pay for either prep days, casting days, non-shooting days that are involved in this. Okay, but in our case, I'm not going to put it in under a prep day. I'm simply going to do it under travel. So we're going to come down here. Casting would be if they'd hired me to spend time looking at talent before the shooting was ever going to happen. They had either flown me down to Florida and we'd actually had a model call and people would come in. We do Polaroids or Digitaloids and that kind of stuff, send it to the client. I would charge for that, but I would not charge the same as if I was actually shooting the job because there really isn't any usage involved in that. It's again, typically would be done at a half-day rate. So I'm not doing any of that, but for my travel day, I'm putting in 2 days of travel. It's that simple, right? So assistants. When we talk about this, assistant days, we need to figure this out. So I've got 2 assistants that I'm actually working with, right? The one in Chicago and the one that's going to be in Florida. So I need to figure out the timing of this, right? So the one in Chicago who's traveling with me, right? We're going to fly out on Sunday. He's going to be there for 5 days and then fly back on the following Saturday. So that's going to be 7 days total, right? We travel on Sunday, shoot Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and come back on sleep.
So we fly out on Monday.
Oh, we're flying out on Monday, okay? See, you got to refer back to my notes. We're flying on Monday, shooting Tuesday through Saturday, which gives me up to six days, whatever, and then come back on travel day is my last day. Assistants and crew. This is not a guaranteed hardcore rule. Typically, an assistant in digital tech would not work at a half rate for travel day. It will be a full rate for them. Hair and makeup styling will be at a half rate. Make sense? It has to do with the level of scale that everybody's getting paid. If you've got an assistant who's making $300 a day, you don't cut that in half. If you've got a stylist that's making $750 a day plus an agency fee, you can cut that in half for a travel day. So typically you would not do half days for an assistant or for digital tech to do the travel, but you would do it, or at least try to do it for your hair and makeup and for your styling. We good on that? Again, photographers, they simply are what they are. Okay, so are we good on that? So my assistant, I've got 7 days for the one in Chicago. Am I bringing anything from Chicago? So we don't need to get together the day before and do any sort of packing, do we? Because I'm not bringing anything down. He can just meet me at the airport. Is that right? You sure about that? No, I think you're right. No, I think you're right. But it's just a question. What if you were bringing some gear? What if you had some special computer, or it was your own cameras or that kind of stuff you had that was actually going on? Would you have somebody doing that ahead of time? You might. If your job was totally always on location, would you hire the photographer in Florida to pick up the gear the day before you got there and get it to the location? He doesn't have to unpack it, he just needs to get it to the location. Would that be a possibility so that you didn't have to actually go there and pick up the gear and have your crew waiting for you. All of these things you need to work out in your mind. This goes back to that whole thing of having to do this job on paper, and it's every single little step of this. You can see, guys, we've been into this for an hour, and we are on the second line of the fucking estimate. We good? Okay, so for my assistant, I don't need to do that. Now, again, let's say, is your assistants, do they work at different rates? Is the guy that you're traveling with, he's your first assistant here in Chicago that you pay $350 a day, but going right in Florida is only $300 a day? Is that how we're going to work this?
No, just put it in and you can change it later if you need to.
Okay, so put it in at the high end, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do it. Okay, so how many days is the guy in Florida actually going to be involved in this? 5 days. Are we sure about that? What happens if we go late on Saturday and we can't get the rental gear back in time? They're not open on Sunday. Do we get it in? Does he bring it in Monday morning while we're already back in Chicago? Do we put in for that contingency?
I mean, we already did. We charged it.
Well, what happens if it takes all that more time? No, wrong answer.
We already billed it higher.
Okay, so let's start off first. We're going to do it at this. So for the assistant and in Chicago, and this is typically what I'll do here. It's an easy way to work this calculator if you've got odd numbers or different sets of numbers that you need to put in here. Simply put in a 1 for assistant. Come over here, and in this worksheet, you'll see that you've got just $250. Well, we can put formulas in here that will take care of this. Now, this may be math intensive. So if this is too math intensive, how many people here are math phobic? Okay, so let's do this. This will only be for the assistant coming from Chicago. We'll just call it the first assistant, okay? And that's what we'll put in the notes. So how many days did we say he was going to be doing this? 7, right? Isn't that what we said? Okay, so it's 7 days. So actually go back here to the front, put in 7, tab over, and then put in $350 a day. That's what his rate is. And then in your notes right here, you can put first assistant. And then hit the tab key again. We are only going to use 1 hair and makeup artist, but again, this part gets tricky now. How many days is she actually going to be doing this? She's still going to do the 5-day shoot, but then she's got the 2-day travel.
So
those 2 days of travel are cut in half, so in reality, she's billing for 6 full days. Does that make sense? Okay, so we'll put a 6 in there. Tab key over. Now, again, the formula that's inside this, you'll see in here, it's 800 times 1.2. Why is that? Exactly. That accounts for the 20% in agency fee. If it was a 30% agency fee, it would be 1.3. If it was a 50% agency fee, it'd be 1.5. It just calculates that for you. And there's a note already in here that it's actually including the agency fee. Can I get a makeup artist here in Chicago for $800 a day? Yes, I can. It's actually a pretty good going rate. 8 to 1,000 a day would actually be where this whole part is. So it's a 5-day shooting with a trip to Miami. Who knows? Maybe I can get her for. All right. So that part actually works. Tab key. Well, if we had hair and makeup, that was actually a lot of times. There's jobs where you have 1 person doing each, and this is just set up to allow you to actually do that. We do not need to do that. So I'm simply going to use my little keys to go down, my arrow keys to go down. So for the stylist, how many days is the stylist going to be on this? It's going to be 6 again, because I've got 5 days of shooting and 2 days of travel, but the travel days are half days. So it's 6 for her. She's only getting paid $750 plus an agency fee. Do I need her to do anything else first? So again, I stipulated that there was, yeah, it's 7. I'm sorry? I know, but if you click over and look at how that 900 was calculated, it's 750 times 1.2. Again, that's the agency fee, right? Don't forget the agency fee things, guys, because you'll end up eating it. It'll end up falling on you. Okay, so at any rate, she's 6. I've got in that. Yeah. So I'm going to continue to click over. So the stylist assistant, I said we're actually going to pick her up in Florida. So how many days for her? Really? So we're going to start shooting in the studio, and we're going to walk in that morning, and there is going to be an avalanche of unopened boxes because you were too cheap to get the stylist assistant in the day before to open everything up, put it on hangers, and start steaming out your first shot. Is that really how you want to roll?
No.
So 6 days for the stylist assistant. Oh, what I was going to say about the regular assistant before. We stipulated in the notes that there were no props, there was no additional wardrobe, there was nothing else. What if there had been? This is where the styling changes. This whole thing changes. You need to budget in time for her. So let's say, for instance, they wanted props, but minimal props. They want stuff just for the beach day. So they want some beach balls, some hula hoops, they want some colorful umbrellas, they want some scuba gear, little flippers and that kind of shit. That's what they're actually looking for. So how do you budget for that? How long would it take you to find beach stuff? Or you think it would take for a stylist assistant to find that stuff? No, a stylist, sorry, not assistant, stylist, to find that. So, I'm sorry?
In Miami?
Half day, we have 2 seconds, but does it really take 2 seconds?
No.
A day, you would give her a day to do that, and that would be reasonable, because it's not a real huge demand on that, right? And is that it then? Do I just put in an extra day for that? Exactly, what about my returns? Who's taking the shit back? Is it the stylist or the stylist assistant? Well, the stylist, do I fly the stylist down a day ahead so that she's got a day more to actually do the shopping? But then I've got to actually pay another night for her hotel.
Yeah, but you're gonna find beach stuff.
It's not a but. You're going to. I'm just trying to say that every time you change one of these parameters, there's a whole world of things that change. I have to put her up in a hotel room. I have to fly her on a different day. I've got to give her budget for that. All things completely change, and you see how this can go wildly out of control really quick. So that's why I'm saying you've got to figure all of this out. Is 1 day enough? Well, yeah, for beach props, it's great. But what if it was other wardrobe that was involved? What if it was a 3-week shooting and we were on the beach every day and they wanted new shit every single day? How many days of is that? No, but I'm just saying this stuff happens. And you've got to work this out in your mind. How is this really going to go? Because again, I'm telling you right now, everybody's temptation in this is just to ballpark it. Oh, a stylist, 5-6 days, yeah, that's it. Okay, 5-6 days, whatever. Oh, and it turns out she's working 13 days. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. Okay, that's not going to be the case with ours. So we've got 6 days in for the stylist. We've got 6 in for the stylist assistant. Production coordinator. We talked about this last week, I think. What the hell is a production coordinator? Shoot. Everything else too. They book all your flights, they book all your talent, they book your hotels, they actually deal with the city, they get all the permitting, they get if you need to have parking enforced, all those little, and this has happened to all of us. You drive along the street and there's those little signs that they put up everywhere that say temporary road closure for filming, right? You see them every time they shoot down here when Chicago Fire or any of those people are shooting around here, they fucking close out streets. You guys as photographers get to do that. You get to close streets down and take them over. Happens all the time. Bring in the rain truck. So, but all of that takes time. You got to have somebody who's dealing with the film office and the print office to actually do all that. So what is the rule of thumb that I told you about production coordinator? Basically, you take the number of days you're shooting. Now this again, truth be told, if I was really doing this, I would actually then, there's a number of producers that I work with, I would send them the black book on this job, I would send them all the particulars and say, you need to do an estimate for me so that I can put that number in here. But a good rule of thumb would be double the days of creative. So again, that's 5 days of shooting. So you would put in 10 days for a production coordinator. Interesting, because we are bringing them, aren't we? So that would change that to 12, because I would actually consider that on both ends. That's another an interesting one. Yes, I'm only going to give them a half a day of travel, so now I'm at 11 days. But you see how wildly fast this changes. 750 here, 750 there. We've been doing this all day long here, right? But again, this would be, I feel, standing on solid ground, legitimate in this. So the digital tech, how many days for the digital tech?
Wait, you said they don't take half days, so 7.
Right, so 7, right? So 7 in for the digital tech.
Are you gonna forget about the second assistant?
No. Let's deal with the second assistant now, because I think Katie will feel better if we actually do. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, and you see this part right down here where it says unnamed expense. Simply put in down here second assistant. And click over, and it's 7, no, it's not 7 days. Or is it? So we figured this out again. He's going to be there in the prep day, so he's there on Monday. He's meeting us on Monday at the studio. He shoots Tuesday through Saturday, which is, again, that gives us 6 days. Do I put in a 7th day for him in case I've got an equipment return issue or something screws up? Do I do that?
Yeah, why not?
You say why not, and all of a sudden me, who's doing the data $3,500 a day, comes in $1,000 less than yours, and you're at $3,000 a day. Guess who's going to get the job? So it may seem like we're being cavalier about the numbers here. I really don't mean, if I'm giving you that impression, that would be a hugely mistaken impression. I don't want to give you that. You got to be serious about this part. But again, contingencies, shit happens in all of this. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at the 6 days. I'm not going to worry about that problem issue right here. If that problem arises, then I talk to the production coordinator on Saturday and say, well, we went over too late. We couldn't get back in time to return the gear. So it's gonna be another $350 or whatever I'm charging for the local assistant to be. We decided he was gonna be different, right? He's only gonna be $300 a day. So put in 300 for him. I'm gonna need another $300. Oh, sorry, put in a 7 for this. Oh, 6, sorry, see? And then 300. And this will be the local assistant. All right, then we need to go back up to where we were leaving off. Digital production charges, what the heck are those? No. It is for each shot, right? What the, again, I thought I had the justification for digital production charges. That's, some people use different versions of this. I'm certain this is on our Moodle site, but I'm not going to be able to find it really quick, so I'll look for it over the break. But it's called justification for digital production charges. And basically, it comes down to this, is that when you go out and buy a camera and you use it, there's wear and tear going to happen on that camera. Eventually, that camera's either going to fail or it's not going to be good enough to do the kind of work that's going to be expected that you actually produce. So you're going to have to get rid of that camera and you're going to buy a new camera. And it just keeps on going like that, right? Well, you need to recover that cost somehow, because essentially what's happening is your clients are using your camera to generate the images that they need for themselves, right? They should pay for that. And one of the ways people talk about calculating digital production charges is to essentially base it on what it would have been like if they actually shot film, and it would be film and processing. So typically in film and processing in the days, and actually the charges for my film and processing, you can see are actually right down here below it. So in the old days, because I don't shoot film anymore, but this would have been as recent as 2006, for a roll of 120 E6, that's what this is, color transparency film. The charge for film would be $12, for processing would be $18, and it would be $30. A typical shooting when we were doing film was 5 rolls of film. That's typically what we would do, which is, and we only get 10 frames out of a single roll, so it was 50 shots. That's what a client would actually get. And so at $30 a pop in this times 5, it would have been $150 in film and processing. That's what we would have charged typically for every single shot we're doing. Well, how many shots are we doing? We're doing 60 of them, right? So we're not going to charge $150. I'm going to only put in $100 for this, but it's 60 shots. That's $6,000. Yes.
How do you justify the wear and tear for running equipment?
You read this thing called, let me see if I can find it really quick. If not, I will post it, but I'm pretty sure it's in your all's Moodle site. JUSTIF. Justification of digital charges that you were supposed to have read this week. I'm guessing you didn't. So I would suggest you read it this coming week, and we can talk about this next week. Oops. Okay, now I also started out, and I told you guys there's just a ginormous amount of reading in this class, and there's no way that I can get you that much information in 5 weeks. But I can get you the information, but it's not something that I can translate to you here in this class in 4 hours, in the 20 hours that we're going to spend together, right? So it does all matter. I wouldn't have put stuff in there if I didn't think it mattered, so at any rate. But now at this stage of the game, you can say to yourself, and I do this all the time, that just seems exorbitant. That just seems so high. I want some wiggle room in here. I want to have something that I can take out, but I'm just looking at this and I'm beginning to freak out a little bit at this cost. And I'm thinking, $6 grand, that just seems like, you know, for a line item that they're not even going to understand, you know, what can I get away with? That they're not going to question me on, or they might question me on, whatever, but you know a $6,000 line item is going to be this giant red flag. So what wouldn't be a giant red flag?
1,500.
1,500. That sounds more reasonable to me. 1,000, 1,500, something like that. Can I come up with a number that would be per shot then? Something that would be closer to a per shot. Can I do 1,200? And if I was doing 1,200, $20 per shot. Isn't that how that works out? Well, let's try it. I've got 60 shots here. I'm going to change this figure to 20. That seems more palatable to me, right? And again, so guys, when you're doing this, part of this is art. Part of the way you structure this stuff, right? What can you get away with? Because that's part of the game here. What can you afford to take out? All of those kind of things in terms of how you structure this. You just cannot go in and blindly say, well, Berkshire told me $100 a shot is what I should be charging for digital production charge. What I really need to do is look at something that is not going to, that again, this if it flies and they pay it, then I've just made another $1,200, and that would be great. If I have to take it out, then at least I've got something significant that I can take out. Does that make sense where we're going with all of this?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to continue to go on here. The retouching fee, I'm not going to do any retouching. I'm not going to touch any post-production right now. What would post-production actually involve? If you shoot for Leo Burnett, one of the largest ad agencies in the world, they're located actually here in Chicago. What they ask for, the digital files that they ask for, this is what they actually ask for. They ask for the raw file. They ask for a processed version, completely processed version, a TIFF file. This is of every single frame that's shot. No, they want all of the raw files, the complete set of raw files that you shoot. Then they want a TIFF version of that. It is, yes, white balance, color corrected, not retouched, but white balance, certainly, right? But processed out. And then they want a JPEG also for position only, a smaller file that they can use in layouts of every single image that you shoot. How many images do you guys shoot? How many images am I going to shoot on this? What do you shoot? A typical shot?
300.
300 for one outfit, or for one to go for, you're going for one picture. So if you're a fashion shooter, one outfit. If you're a beauty shooter, one look. If you're going, whatever it is you shoot. I'm sorry, 175?
Oh my God.
Oh my God? What's oh my God?
3 looks, 900.
3 looks, 900
Yeah.
pictures?
No.
Location
20
shooter,
to
yes.
50 for a shot.
Yes, I will do it. That's what I do, for real. Yeah, I'm a heavy shooter. I know that.
I just can't imagine editing that.
You should
I
make a
think every-
sequence in our one class, and like she'll have 60 photos, and we'll by the time we like break it down, it's like 30, and then you gotta do it again and again.
Okay. One of the sad things about no longer shooting film and processing is that it really sort of removed that discipline that was involved in the days of film and processing. Because, oh my God, I can't imagine what your film and processing bill would be if you did that. But those are the old days, so let's not talk about that. But at any rate, if certainly in your case, you need to then budget in time for an assistant to actually be doing all of this processing, right? Because imagine for you, if you had to process a TIFF and a JPEG of every single frame you shot, how long would that take? Well, no, wait, no, but this because, again, how long would that take? How long would it take you guys? Do we know? Could you find out? How would you find out? And would you have to do all 6,000 or however many you do?
Like 10 or something.
And so you could do that. And so then you could anticipate how much time this is really going to take. Again, this goes back to this doing this on paper that I'm begging you guys to do. So you would say to yourself, okay, we'll base this on me. A typical shooting for me, a typical outing for me on a typical outfit is 50 frames. That's what I end up typically shooting. If it's something difficult, it's either I'm having trouble with the model or it's something weird about the clothes, I'm having trouble with that, I'll do 100. If it's with an art director that is trying to cover every single option that they've got, and there's a couple of people like that that I work with, it can be as much as 200. So then I would say to myself, if it's 200 frames, and I've got, so that's I'm gonna just take an average, and let's call it 100. And I've got 60 shots, that's 6,000 frames, right? How long is it gonna take me to process 6,000 frames? I have got to hire an assistant to do that, or I've got to pay my assistant to do that because it's going to be a huge amount of overtime, and I've got to work out the overtime. How long is that going to take? So I would put 100 frames into my computer. I would run it through. How long does it take me to process 100 frames? And get the JPEG, the TIFF, exactly the way I want. How long is that going to take me? And then figure out, again, according to that, how long would it take me to do my 6,000? And then budget in that time. And maybe that involves a whole nother assistant that I've got working at night. Maybe there's a way I can automate it and simply have it run on a computer at night and still bill for it.
Yeah.
Which would be the more likely way of doing it, right? Something that was set up so that I basically just hit a button and it cranked through a day's shooting, right? So my 6,000, it would actually be only 1,200 a day. Because I've got 5 days to do the 6,000 files, right? So then I could just let it run at night and tell them I'm charging another assistant rate to do the same thing. So it's another $300 a day for every day of it, which would be another $1,500 that I get to pocket because all we're doing is hitting a button. Are we going to do that? Okay, well, then that's what we're going to do. So this client, although Lord & Taylor doesn't do this, but if this was an advertising shooting, they would actually, this was a charge that we could put down here in the bottom, or you could actually put it here in this post-production. So again, I'm going to put in our 60 shots here. And again, we would figure out the time. Basically, we'll do it on a per day thing. So let's just do our 5 days of processing. And we just said that it was going to be another assistant to do that. So again, it would be $300, and that's what our post-production would actually be. I always deliver my stuff on hard drives. There's no other way to deliver files any bigger than that. You don't want to be uploading this much. So I'm going to put in one, and I'm going to leave it at 250. It's listed as digital delivery. And we are getting through this pretty good, but now we're heading into something that's going to be a little bit more complex. So with that in mind, why don't we stop here, take a quick break, everybody sort of like get the coffee down, and we'll come back in and we'll figure it out. Sound like a plan? All right.
Guys, I made a cookies if anybody would want some. Or chocolate.
Oh, yeah! Want to. Thank you.
Yeah, do.
Yeah, that's supposed to be festive.